After d4, d5, bishop f4, we know we have to play c5. We've been going through in the previous videos. There's plenty of videos about the London system. There's going to be more. Today I'm going to be focusing on the c4 move. So after e3, knight c6, white can play this move. It is one of the variations. It is quite popular. It's not the most popular, but we have to know what to do against it. It's not supposed to be very good. And okay, so now we play knight f6. Right, so let's get started. A lot of things can happen. Let's start from the more understandable, right? C takes D, which is the whole point, which will make the bishops stronger and able to go to basically all the squares on the diagonal, and also gives a pawn for the D pawn. And yeah, so let's start with this. So we have to take back with the knight. The reason is very simple, right? You don't want to take with the queen because then after knight comes to c3, you cannot pin the knight. You're going to have to move the queen again, so that's silly. And the knight here comes with an attack on the bishop. So we're happy to take the bishop, which means that the white's best move is bishop g3, which is not only saving the bishop from the knight, but it's also a very typical move in the London system, right? You develop this bishop very early and it controls a very good diagonal. So after bishop g3, we take the pawn. So we are giving our c pawn for the d pawn, and we are isolating the pawn of our opponent because white is now a pawn down, and so whenever he takes, if he wants to, if he doesn't want to, we're happy to take him. So after take, white has an isolated pawn. We play now bishop f5. Typical, right? You probably recognize this from the previous London system video, right? And you're starting to realize how all the different variations that you can study and learn eventually will have so many patterns that are inherently suitable for most of the variations, simply because it's always the same setup. Bishop f5 attacks the lovely diagonal, and the goal here, if we were to play again, would be to play e5. The reason is it allows the development of the bishop. We have an immediate threat. So let's try to understand this threat, right? e5. When we have a piece attacking c3, and the white bishop, the dark square white bishop, is away from this diagonal. Basically, it's here because the c takes d allowed our knight to go to d5 and attack the bishop. So now the bishop is out of the queen side. Now we have a much stronger bishop, right? With two pieces attacking c3. Our goal, let's say, for example, well, we don't get to play again, but let's say white takes. Now we will immediately take the knight. We're up a piece. White cannot afford to take back. If white takes back, that's a disaster because bishop b4 is coming. We have eliminated one of the defender of c3. So just imagine the rook taking a bishop b4, and the king now is forced to go to e2. Afterwards, the best move by black is queen a5, with the threat of going straight for checkmate. So if you've been following my channel, you'll realize that in most of my videos I do these kind of things where I go on a few moves without our opponent moving, but that's to show the plan. And that basically, once you know that you want to go for e5, which allows the immediate capture of a free piece. If white doesn't see that, then you can literally go for the same plan, right? Bishop b4 afterwards, and so on. So we know what we want to do. We know we want to play e5. White to play. Best move according to the engine is bishop c4. Clearly you want to start pressuring this knight, develop the bishop, and castle as soon as possible. White cannot castle queenside for many reasons. Now the best move is knight d to b4. We don't want to give away that knight. And also, the whole point of playing this bishop is also because it needs help in the attack of the c2 square. Now we're threatening to go to c2. We're attacking the d3 square with two different pieces. White cannot go to bishop to d3 because we'll take it for free. And we'll have to defend the c2 square. This can be done through bishop b3 or knight to a3. Let's look at them. Let's start with bishop to b3 because it's the worst, and then we're going to go to the better one. Now we can take the pawn. That's a free pawn. We're just so much better here. And the goal is to play knight d to c2, winning, right? We're winning just a lot of material, right? We've got so many pieces attacking there. And so white now is already in trouble. The evaluation is about like -4 already. Black is about to win a lot of material. This c2 square is just under fire, and we're going to go there no matter what. The engine evaluates this like -8, so that's completely over. And the best move now by white is knight a3. You know that the engine likes to just play the best move no matter what, instead of resigning, for example. And this move simply allows knight d3 check. Queen cannot take the knight, obviously, and the king will have to move. So let's say king moves, and then the knight can happily take in b2, attacking the queen. The queen will have to move. The queen cannot really go to a light square without being pinned by the light square bishop. So after a move like queen d2, just to make an example, bishop to d3 check, the knight cannot block because he gets taken for free. The king moves, and now black simply plays e6 and wins. The threat is simply to take the knight. The knight can't move to c4 because he gets taken by the bishop. Bishop takes, and if bishop takes, then we can take back. And if the queen takes the knight, we've got bishop e4. And I'll let you figure out how to continue this game. I mean, you've got to discover checks afterwards. It's completely over. Going back a few moves, after bishop e3, knight takes, as we said. Best move by white is knight a3. We still have this threat anyway. After knight a3, knight to d3, check. King moves, knight to b2, and then the queen moves again. Let's look at this move once again. Bishop check, king moves, and we play e6. What happens if queen takes the knight immediately, protecting the knight? We still play bishop before check, and the king will have to move to the only square. And now we simply take the bishop. Next, we have a discover check. By moving this bishop away, we're going to be winning a lot of material. The queen can't really go to a light square. Even taking back with the pawn simply allows bishop e4 check. And now, where can the king go? He will have to go to c1. If he goes to e2, then this is checkmate. If he goes to c1, then we take the knight. This is a pin, so we're taking the queen. If the queen takes or the rook takes, whatever, we play rook to c8. It's game over. The king can't go any of these squares or even b1 because of the bishop. We will have to block, and yeah, you have fun. So let's make a recap. d4, d5, bishop f4, c5, e3, knight c6, and they play this c4 move, right, which is the point of this video. Knight f6, and when they take, we take back. We're attacking the bishop. We want to disrupt the center for the opponent, double up the pawn, take away his bishop pair, have a double attack on this pawn, so white will have to play the bishop back. Otherwise, we're simply just taking great advantage at the beginning, and now it's black to move. So we take. We're already isolating the pawn of our opponent. Needless to say, can't take with the queen because of the knight. So after this move, we play bishop f5. Best move by black is bishop c4. If they don't play bishop c4, they will play something else. Whatever they do, we will look at it in later on. Maybe the next video, probably, depending on how this video goes. After bishop c4, we simply refuse that exchange. We play knight to b4, and we start going for this. Earlier we saw bishop b3 and how terrible things get because of knight d4. Now we're going to look at the better move, which is knight to a3. Now we take the pawn with the queen, and with attacking pawn, which comes with an attack on the knight. White's best reply now, according to the engine, is to take the queen, clearly because of this, there's just so much pressure. And now there's a... Okay, so the move we're going to go through is queen takes, because that's the best move. Let's make an example though. Right, let's say knight f3, for example. Develops the knight, potentially going to some better squares, attacks the queen, allows the king to castle, tries to allow the king to castle. We will take this, not poison the pawn, comes with an attack on the knight, and reinforces the attack on the c2 square because the queen is close to that square. Now white's best move is knight to b5, going for the usual threat, which in this case it happens to be a beautiful checkmate because the queen is attacking all of these squares. So we cannot allow this checkmate. So we will play knight to c2 now. It comes with a check. If the queen were to take, we don't have to worry about the checkmate because that's not checkmate anymore, simply because the queen is no longer on the d file. So after the king moves to f1, for example, our best move is rook to c8. We have to stop this check from happening, of course. And the sacrifice of the knight doesn't work. The knight going to c7, rook takes, and bishop takes, for example. You might argue that white is winning the exchange, but we also have a queen and a knight attacking the rook, which allows black to win a clean rook, so black will be up in material. If white were to play the best move, which is rook to b1, attacking the queen, we will have to take the rook, right? And at the end of this calculation, black wins in material, right? So we're up a rook, white takes our queen back, and we play knight e3, comes with a check by the knight, and there's an attack on the queen. White's best move obviously is to take the piece that is being given because he knows he's about to lose the queen. Black now obviously takes the queen. So let's actually have a look at that knight c7 move, because that is the only way for white to equalize material, or to try to equalize material. Right now we have 2 rooks and 3 minor pieces. Black has 1 rook and 4 minor pieces, which means black is up the exchange. But we also have 2 more pawns. We have a majority of pawns from this side, and here it's kind of unclear. We have 4 against 3. But this pawn that is kind of isolated might not be that much of a weakness. Yes, it is a weakness, but not too much, because at least when it comes to a pawn storm going to against another island of pawns, then this pawn here might be doing a good job protecting two squares. But here we do have a majority, and we will be able to win and promote a pawn eventually later on in the game. So white's best chances are now arriving after knight to c7 check, because best thing to do for black now is to take the knight. We have to take this knight, because after the involvement of the rook in the game when the king moves, and also white has two bishops and some well-placed knight, we don't want to start running around with the king. We have to take. So it looks like right now the material is equal, right? Rook and 3 mana pieces against rook and 3 mana pieces. We're still up 2 pawns, which is a good advantage, but we actually just fine here. We have to play e6 to develop the last bishop. Now white continue with king f2. The rook is now entering the game, also attacking the bishop, forcing us. I mean, we're losing a tempo because we have to withdraw the bishop, bishop e4. Right now, we've been in a winning endgame already for a few moves. What we need to do is just to secure the transition to an easy win. White will have to develop the rook. All of these moves that I'm playing now are they are some of these moves are the best moves according to the engine. This could be the moment to already abandon the line, because we're winning here for the reasons we explained, that we can clearly see that. We just gotta keep the bishop pair in this endgame. Black now develops the bishop. Suggested move is bishop to a3 in this situation. Well, none of these squares would have been actually very attractive, because some of them might have lost a few tempos. Also, you wanna allow your knight potentially to reach a square like b4, because you don't really have any freedom at the moment with this knight. If you don't have many squares to go to, don't block the other square like knight to b4. Also, a5 was controlled by this bishop, so bishop a3 is the recommended move. What we need to do is simply now castle and continue the game. One other reason for the bishop to be in a3 is to attack the square c1. For example, a move like knight to g5 now attacking the bishop is met by bishop to c2, right? This is becoming a bit of a problem for the white rook. So the rook simply has to move. And I will simply play the bishop back to g6, right? These last moves I've played are just examples of how to move around in such an endgame. It's an open endgame. There's just trillions of possible moves, so there's no way we can possibly go through that. But what matters is that we found a way to go through a winning endgame like this one. Position is evaluated -6, so I think that's enough. Next move is, let's say, bishop to b5. We don't care about our pawn being isolated because it will be a passed pawn. Best suggested move now is king to e7, allowing the rook into the game, and yeah, we can stop it there.